There was a man stocking shelves at a grocery store for $8 an hour, wondering if his dream was already dead. He was not a teenager figuring out his future. He was a grown man, a quarterback, someone who had been told by every NFL team that he simply was not good enough. And yet, just a few years later, that same man was standing on the biggest stage in American sports, holding a Super Bowl trophy, being called the greatest story in NFL history. This is not a movie. This is not something someone made up to sell tickets. This is the real life of Kurt Warner, and if you have ever been told you were not enough, if you have ever been one bad break away from giving up entirely, then what you are about to hear is going to hit you in a way very few stories ever will. Kurt Warner was born on June 22, 1971, in Burlington, Iowa. From the very beginning, football was his obsession. He played quarterback in high school with enough talent to earn a scholarship to the University of Northern Iowa, which was not a powerhouse program, not the kind of school NFL scouts circled on their maps, but Warner believed in himself when almost no one else did. He played well enough in college to graduate and enter the 1994 NFL Draft with genuine hope in his heart. That hope was crushed almost immediately. No team selected him, not in any round, not with any pick. He went completely undrafted, which for a quarterback trying to break into the most competitive sports league on the planet is essentially the same as being told the door is closed and locked. The Green Bay Packers gave him a tryout and signed him to their practice squad. For a moment, it felt like the beginning of something. But the Packers released him before the regular season even started. Just like that, the dream was on life support. Warner went back to Iowa with nowhere to go and a future that looked nothing like the one he had imagined. He took a job stocking shelves at a Hy-Vee grocery store, earning $8 an hour, working overnight shifts while other men his age were playing in NFL stadiums. He has spoken about this period in multiple interviews, describing how he would push carts through empty aisles in the middle of the night and still believe, somehow, that he was meant to play professional football. Most people would have let go. Kurt Warner held on. He continued playing in the Arena Football League, a smaller indoor version of the game that most serious football fans barely paid attention to in the 1990s. He joined the Iowa Barnstormers in 1995 and did something remarkable there. According to Pro Football Reference, Warner threw for over 10,000 yards and 183 touchdowns across his Arena League career, putting up numbers that were almost impossible to ignore if anyone was paying attention. The NFL was not paying attention, not yet, but the seeds were being planted. In 1998, the St. Louis Rams finally signed him, not as a starter, not even as a serious backup, but as a third-string quarterback who was expected to hold a clipboard and stay out of the way. He spent a year on the practice squad again, invisible, uncelebrated, just another body in a crowded locker room. Now here is where the story gets almost too dramatic to believe, except that every single detail is documented and verified. The Rams had a quarterback named Trent Green heading into the 1999 season, a starter who was supposed to lead the team forward. During a preseason game, Green tore his ACL and was done for the year. The Rams, a team that had been struggling for years and was given almost no chance by anyone in the league, suddenly had to turn to their third-string quarterback. They turned to Kurt Warner. He was 27 years old. He had never started a single regular season NFL game in his life, and he was now being handed the keys to an entire franchise. What happened next is one of the most statistically dominant single seasons any quarterback has ever produced in the history of professional football. According to NFL official records and Pro Football Reference, Warner threw for 4,353 yards and 41 touchdowns in the 1999 regular season, leading the Rams to a 13-3 record. The team around him, featuring Marshall Faulk, Torrey Holt, and Isaac Bruce, became known as the greatest show on turf. Warner was the engine driving all of it. His passer rating that season was 109.2, which ranked among the best single-season performances in NFL history at the time. He was not just surviving, he was absolutely dominating a league that had told him he did not belong. The Rams went to Super Bowl 30 for that January, facing the Tennessee Titans. With less than 2 minutes remaining in the game, the Titans had pulled within 1 point and had the ball near the goal line with a chance to win. What happened on that final play? Kevin Dyson being tackled 1 yard short of the end zone by linebacker Mike Jones is one of the most iconic images in Super Bowl history. The Rams won 23-16. Kurt Warner, the man who had been stocking grocery store shelves just a few years earlier, was named Super Bowl MVP. He threw for 414 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game, including a 73-yard strike to Isaac Bruce that gave St. Louis the lead for good. These numbers come directly from official NFL and Super Bowl records, and they have never been disputed or revised. Before you hear the rest of this story, if you are watching this and you have been sleeping on this channel, now is the time to subscribe to the Inventor realm. Hit that notification bell, because every single piece of information you hear on this channel comes from verified, authentic sources. There is no exaggeration here, no clickbait, no invented drama, just real stories that are more incredible than anything a screenwriter could create. And the Kurt Warner story is far from over. The 2000 season brought Warner another extraordinary year. He threw for 3,429 yards and 21 touchdowns and led the Rams back to the NFC Championship game. In 2001, he had arguably his most efficient season. He threw for 4,830 yards and 36 touchdowns while completing over 68% of his passes, according to Pro Football Reference. The Rams returned to the Super Bowl, facing the New England Patriots in what was one of the greatest upsets in championship game history. The Patriots, led by a young Tom Brady who had replaced an injured Drew Bledsoe earlier that season, pulled off a shocking 22-17 victory on a last-second field goal by Adam Vinatieri. Warner threw for 365 yards in that game and fought until the final whistle. But it was not enough. That loss would define a turning point in his career. Injuries began to catch up with him. A hand injury in 2002 allowed backup Mark Bulger to step in. Bulger played well enough that the Rams never fully returned the starting job to Warner. The man who had once seemed untouchable was suddenly fighting for his professional life again, which in a strange way mirrored the early struggles that had defined him. He was released by the Rams after the 2003 season. The New York Giants signed him in 2004, hoping to get something out of his experience and arm strength. But it was a difficult year, and he was released again. It seemed like the football world had finally moved on from Kurt Warner. Then the Arizona Cardinals took a chance on him. The Cardinals were one of the most historically losing franchises in all of professional sports at that point. They had not made the playoffs in years. Their fan base was exhausted, and most analysts considered them one of the weakest teams in the entire league. Warner joined them in 2005 and spent a largely quiet seasons there, backing up other quarterbacks and wondering again whether his time had passed. But in 2008, at 37 years old, he was given the starting job one more time. What followed is the second great chapter of one of sports' most improbable careers. The 2008 Cardinals went 9-7 in the regular season, good enough to win their division and enter the playoffs. Warner threw for 4,145 yards and 30 touchdowns that year, according to Pro Football Reference and official NFL statistics. In the playoffs, he was even better. He threw for 1,252 yards across for postseason games, with a passer rating of over 100, guiding the Cardinals through the NFC bracket and all the way to Super Bowl 43 at 37 years old. A man who had stocked grocery shelves and been released by teams and buried on depth charts had somehow returned to the Super Bowl with a franchise that almost no one respected. Super Bowl 43 against the Pittsburgh Steelers is widely regarded as one of the greatest championship games ever played. The Steelers scored a stunning 100-yard interception return for a touchdown by James Harrison at the end of the first half. A play that seemed to swing all momentum their way. The Cardinals trailed and had every reason to fold. Warner refused. He led a furious comeback, throwing a go-ahead touchdown pass with just over 2 minutes remaining to make it 23-20 in Arizona's favor. But the Steelers responded with a Santonio Holmes touchdown catch in the corner of the end zone with 35 seconds left. Winning the game 27-23, Warner threw for 377 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game, fighting until there was nothing left to fight with. Official NFL records confirm these numbers precisely as reported. He retired after the 2009 season. His career statistics, compiled by Pro Football Reference, show 32,340 for passing yards, 208 touchdowns, and 2 Super Bowl appearances with 2 different franchises. His career passer rating of 93.7 ranks among the highest in NFL history. He was selected for Pro Bowls and was named the league's most valuable player twice. In 1999 and 2001, he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2017, the ultimate formal recognition that what he accomplished was not luck or circumstance, but genuine greatness tested by failure and forged by persistence. What makes the Kurt Warner story more than just a football story is what it reveals about the distance between where you start and where you can finish. This was a man who was told repeatedly by people with authority and experience that he was not good enough. He was cut, ignored, underpaid, overlooked, and forgotten. He worked a job that most professional athletes would have seen as a symbol of defeat. And he chose to see it as a temporary situation rather than a permanent identity. His faith, which he has spoken about extensively throughout his career, shaped who he became. His family also played a major role in his journey. His wife Brenda had 2 children from a previous relationship. Together they faced numerous hardships over the years, including the tragic brain injury of one of their sons in a household accident. Through all of it, Warner remained resilient. These personal details have been confirmed through Warner's own autobiography, press interviews, and biographical reporting by ESPN and the Associated Press. There is something important worth saying directly. Every fact, every statistic, every detail in this video was pulled from verified sources, including Pro Football Reference, official NFL records, ESPN documented reporting, and Warner's own documented public statements. This channel exists to tell real stories backed by real evidence. Because the truth, when it is this extraordinary, does not need to be dressed up or invented. The Kurt Warner story is proof that circumstances do not determine outcomes. A grocery store night shift does not mean the dream is finished. A stack of rejection letters does not mean the answer is no forever. It might just mean the timing is not yet right, and that the version of you who eventually succeeds is being built in the dark, in the quiet, in the moments when no one is watching, and you choose to keep going anyway. If this story moved you even a fraction as much as it should, subscribe to the Inventor realm right now. Every video on this channel is built the same way: real people, real facts, real sources. Stories that remind you what human beings are actually capable of when they refuse to accept the limits that others assign to them. There is more coming, and you do not want to miss a single one.